Before I dive into this video today on how I made the ephemera binder that I made for the 600 subby giveaway, I wanted to just add this little caveat, and that is that because I decided to film this over a period of days and a period of time, this video might feel a little bit choppy, and that's just because I was showing you each stage of the process. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and start the video, but I apologize if it just seems like it's really chopped up. Thanks for watching. Well, I've been talking along to all of you. My camera wasn't even on, and I was doing it. It was so entertaining and fascinating. Okay, let's get myself rearranged here, and I will now tell you what I was just explaining to you, only this time with the camera on. So what I'm doing today, well, first of all, welcome back to my channel, where clearly we don't know what we're doing here. Anyhow, my name is Marcy, and this is Creators Call Shop here on YouTube. What I'm working on today is the ephemera binder that I promised in the giveaway announcement. Just a reminder that that giveaway is now closed. We had a winner. The purpose of this video is to show you how I made the binder that was the prize in the giveaway. And I'm going to be making this over as an ephemera binder with a Vintage Ladies theme. So what I wanted to do, since I'm sitting here working, is go ahead and turn on the camera and maybe just talk to you a little bit about what I've done. Why don't you guys go ahead and grab yourself a drink and get yourself comfy and settled, and then when you come back, I'll talk to you about what I've done so far. Right, where are we at? Well, the first thing I did was I took the pages out of this binder. I made myself two piles. There was the no pile, and then there is a yes pile. And basically the no pile are pages that I don't think I would ever really use. For instance, I wouldn't give them away in freebies, I wouldn't use them in journals, and I would not do anything with them except probably cover them over and use them for something else. So that's my no pile. You all will thank me for doing that. Then I have my yes pile. And then there were a couple little booklets at the front of this, so I'm just hanging on to them in case I want to dismantle them and use them in other journals later. But the yes pile has a little more pleasing pictures that are a little more universal. I think these are prettier, and these could end up potentially in journals, or if I do another pack for journal book pages and things like that, then these could be included in another journal kit and be actually quite lovely to receive in a pack of journal pages. But overall, I'm just kind of glad that that style of decorating has gone by the wayside. Then I have inside the binder, these are the pages that I've kept out, and as you can see, it's not a very big stack. So when I put these in the binder, they're not going to take up much room, and that's good. By the time I've covered over these pages with much prettier paper, sorry for the shake there, it'll take up about twice as much room as it does right now, right? So it'll come out to about here, and then that would still leave you quite a lot of room for storage, which is, after all, the goal. So then I have all of these pretty papers. I decided I came up with 18 that I liked. No rhyme or reason. It's just I liked these the best, and I think they'll be really pretty in there. They are mostly kind of neutral backgrounds, not a lot in the way of pictures or anything, just because they're going to get covered over with ephemera. So they don't need to be super interesting. These two, I have this page here, and then this one, and these will be the ones that cover the outside of the binder. I also want to talk about the tabs. I'm leaving the 5 tab pages in here for now. I don't know if I will use them for sure, but it seems like if you have a binder and you're trying to store things, it would be nice to have tabbed pages that you could label. And the backs of these are plain, so I wouldn't even really have to cover the backs, and they match the color schemes of my papers, which was completely accidental, but very much appreciated. So I would just cover over the front side then and make a spot, you know, where you could write a label here. For the pages then, I have started cutting some of them and I'm not 100% sure quite what I'm doing. Completely winging it because I have not actually seen anyone do this way of making the binder or making an ephemera binder. So I decided to take some of these pages and I cut this flap right down the middle up to the crease, and then we can fold it each way. So there'd be a pocket for tucking here and one for here. I have a few pages like that. Then this one, whoops, you guys are stuck together. This one I have 2 or 3 like this where I took the flap and I trimmed it off. And then the remaining piece, I'm just gonna tuck in there, and these will all be decorated, of course. And then that gives you a level here and a level there so that you can store your ephemera in there. And I think that will be kind of handy to have. And then I have several pages that are still not cut. I haven't quite decided what I want to do to the pages yet, so I'm kind of leaving those till the last minute. I may do a couple that just tuck, you know, that I punch the thumb notch here and then you can tuck very large things in, but I don't think you'd need very many of those in a journal. Or conversely, when I cover these, I may just sew so that you have, they're divided into 4s or 2s, and then all of them you would be able to slide tall things down into the center. So I haven't quite decided, so these have not been cut yet. As I go, once I get started, I'll probably have a better idea of what I want to do. So that's where I am so far. As I continue to work on this, I may come back and turn on the camera again and show you some more of what I'm doing. For now, I'm going to continue working and I may or may not be back. Okay, I'm back. I decided that I would play around a little bit on some of these pages that don't matter and just kind of get a feel for what it is I actually want to do. And I've pretty much decided that I'm going to completely change direction on how I'm doing this. So what I did was I covered these with paper on both sides. This is the one that has 2 flaps, and then this is the one where I had trimmed this off, and then I'm making an additional pocket here. I like the idea of this, but I just don't like how I'm doing it per se. So we're gonna not even go there. And these pages that I've already cut, I'll just use them in a different way later on down the line. So what I've decided is, instead of trying to use the wet glue and glue down coordinating papers and fiddle with all the parts, I'm going to take a spray adhesive. I have this one, I think I found them at Walmart, but it's just your basic spray adhesive, multi-purpose. And then I'm going to spray these outside on the patio and just lay the paper over it. I think that'll work. Okay, and I think that'll be a little bit smoother finish. Then I'm going to take my sheets of acetate, and I thought I would just sew them on here. If I try one and I don't like it, then I will switch over to using page protectors. Page protectors are what Pam used on her ephemera binders. They're a little more flexible, so I'll just see what works. So that means I need to do a couple more practice pages first before I commit to using all of the papers and things I reserved. But that's what I've decided to do next. I'm gonna go out on the patio then and start playing, and then if it's nice enough out, it's not too windy, and I can manage the camera and the papers and all of that, I'll set up the camera out there for you to watch. Otherwise, I will just come back here and show you how it turned out. Okay, we're out here on the patio. I'm doing my practice pages, and as you can see, maybe, this doesn't quite come all the way to the edge, so I think I'm gonna have to trim that off. But if you go to the inside, here's where the holes are, and then I'll just have to trim off a little bit of the excess. But it does lay smoother and flatter, and if I get it on there just right, it does a really nice job of adhering. So I'm just gonna go ahead and now work on the papers that are actually for the ephemera binder. And then we just have these extra practice ones, which may get included in there as well. I hope I don't run out of spray adhesive. Be a bummer. You can see that this one actually fits almost all the way. So we'll see when we trim that up what we do with it. I just wanted to point out as we're going along here, from time to time you may see me rotate the scrapbook paper before I put it down like I did right here. That's because the two halves of these pages that came out of the binder are not equal. The part that folds over is a little shorter than the side that has the holes in it that slides into the binder. By rotating the papers, I was able to make the image fit the best and get it so that it showed completely on the bigger side of the page. And then when I put them into the binder, I will adjust those pages or turn them so that the images are right side up, if that makes sense. This particular one here, I was going to point out that when I pulled it up off the cardboard, it stuck a little bit and it had a little bit of a rip. But as you can see, it turned out to be okay. Lid came off on my finger. That's a new one. Okay guys, Here's my pile of papers. For some reason, I have a couple extra left over. I don't know why. So now I'm gonna have to wait for these to dry and go and count. As you can see, the wind was a little bit of a factor, and then I was under attack from a bug, and then my hands got sticky, and the spray adhesive, the little button that you push, kind of stuck to my finger. So this is where we're at right now. So I'm gonna let these dry, then we're gonna go inside and cut down the excess and make these fit into the book and go to the next step. See you back inside. Okay, I'm back inside now, working away on these. I just thought I'd just take a quick second to show you how it's going. So once the glue was dry and all the papers looked like they were on there really well, I went ahead and trimmed off the excess. There's excess paper that was hanging over on the back side, and then on these short sides, the paper was just not quite long enough, so I had to trim about 1/4 of an inch off of every one of these along the short side. And now what I've decided to do before I sew on the plastic is to go ahead and cover the bare space that's left over. I trimmed up a bunch of these strips from the scraps that were left over from the cutoffs, and I'm just gluing them here, along here, so that once these are closed, this is still decorative. Okay, it looks kind of cute. Once those are dry, then I'll go back and repunch the holes on the back side, and then I'll be sewing the plastic pieces on. And then I was also going to point out some of these, even though I measured, are just a little bit short, so I'm just inking where the white edges are so that everything blends in together. So that's what's going on right now. I'm plugging away and things are coming together, and actually I really like how this is turning out. So I'm really glad I changed direction and decided to use the spray adhesive to attach the papers, because I think that's working a whole lot better and it just looks a lot nicer. After this, I'm going to go ahead and sew on the plastic. We're on to the next step now. I have sewn the plastic pockets onto all of the pages, and I thought I would show you very quickly how this one turned out now that it's all done. I used all of my acetate that I had, which actually was really good. These were just transparencies. I think I explained that in an earlier section of the video. And I played around with some different sizes, and then I just got myself into a little bit of a rhythm and just kind of repeated over and over. So on one side of the page, it'll have a 3x5 and a 4x5 pocket, and then on the other side, it'll have a 5 or a 5.5 inch by 2, 3 pockets in a row like that, so that you can fit smaller things or you can fit bigger things. Now I went back and forth. I debated about punching a little pull hole here, but I don't know that it would help, to be honest. I just didn't think that that would really help. And I thought, you know, I could go to all that work and it probably won't make one iota of difference. So after I sewed these on, I left the pages open and sewed these on top of the paper. Then I went back and I glued around here, and I did do a little bit of glue right up the seam just to give it some sturdiness. And I had already shown you how I had included some pretty strips of paper to kind of cover that empty area on each page. I also went around and sewed a straight line here just to make sure that these pages were tacked down. So I'm just trying to make sure that the paper edges are tacked down everywhere as much as possible. And then every single page in the binder will now have this deep, tall pocket, and I glued them down here. So you've got quite a bit of space here, but that way if you have really tall strips or just bigger things that you're wanting to store, you have extra space in the middle of every single one of these pages. So that took me a couple of days, and I did have some mess ups, and I did kind of have to tear a couple pages up and start over again, but I'm really pleased with the final product. So of course this video will be airing sometime after the giveaway is over, but just wanted to make sure I'm explaining every step of my process for you. So my next step that I'm doing now is I'm working on those tabbed divider pages. And I thought I would share with you what I came up with for that. So if you'll recall, there were 5 of these. They had the big pictures in the middle on one side, but they're pretty blank on the back. They were very shiny and very bright. and I wanted to tone that down a little bit. And also because of the papers that I was using, even though they're a little plainer, so that your ephemera will stand out on them, I promised that this would be a vintage lady themed binder, and I didn't have much of the aspect of vintage ladies in it. So I thought really hard, and what I came up with was that I would take images of vintage ladies and enlarge them and make them as focal points on these divider pages. So I took each one of these little pages, I sanded it down on both sides, then I went over it very quickly with some acrylic paint, and this is just something, in fact, this is Hobby Lobby, but I know for a fact that I bought this secondhand somewhere, probably at the Creative Reuse store. This wasn't mine. And then I added some Vintage Photo Re-Inker ink. I put it away now. I don't have it with me, but it's the Re-Inker bottle. Oop, this is walnut stain. It's the Re-Inker bottle for the Distress inks, but it's in the Vintage Photo color. And I put probably 4 droppers full and shook this all up. This was a white and it was not full. It was probably maybe half full, so I put in quite a bit, and I got this kind of a tan color. This is empty now, but I thought I'd just show you what the color wound up being. Then I took a paintbrush and I just put a very light application on both sides. So again, I sanded these down first and took the shine off, and then I wiped them off because they were pretty dusty. Then I went over these very quickly with the paint, and I let that dry, and I did it on front and back. And so it has kind of that beat up vintagey feel. And at first this paint went on pretty tan. I wasn't quite sure, but as it has dried, it's really lightened up. And so it just adds this really nice kind of opaque color to the divider pages. And then my next step after that is to take some pattern tissue. So this is just the tissue paper that you find in a pattern, and patterns are cheap. You can find them in lots of thrift stores. You don't even have to like what the pattern is of. You can just use the tissue paper in all kinds of crafting. So I have seen this used as a background where they glue it down, and it's just a background that you can write on the page. In this case, I was wanting to add a background without creating a lot of bulk. So I have taken these and taken my decal edged ruler, and I'm tearing them down. And I've got 5 images, one for each tab divider. And like I said, I went out to it's the New York Public Library. I just searched New York Public Library free images, and then within that I just searched for vintage women or vintage ladies, and then it gives you tons of options. And then I found the ones I liked and downloaded them. You just have to make sure that they say that they're in the public domain, which most of these are. Well, all of the ones I picked are. Most of the ones on their site are in the public domain, but every one that I picked for this project is in public domain, which ultimately doesn't matter because I'm giving this away. I'm not selling it, but definitely you want to be careful of copyright and making sure that you are honoring the artists who originally created these pieces of artwork, because that's how artists make their bread and butter. So as fellow artists, we want to respect their livelihoods and not cheat them out of an income. So anyway, that's just a little side note. But anyway, just make sure that they say that they're public domain, and it's the New York Public Library, and they just are downloading images all the time. So then I played around with this, with these, and I put them on Publisher. Now, I am not a person who knows much about how to resize images or how to make printables and digitals and all that, but I did download them. I put them into Publisher, and then I just enlarged it to the size that I wanted. I knew it had to be at least, I think it was 5 1/4 by 7 1/2 to cover this. So I just put in those dimensions on Publisher, and then it enlarged the images. So this is the last tabbed page I'm doing, so I thought I would just turn on the camera real quick and do it with you. And I've already torn these edges down, and so now we're just gonna, I want to line this up and just make good and sure of where I am. And I'm doing it sideways so I can kind of see the whole thing here. And then I'm laying this on top to make sure that I've got it where it's covering everything, and then that adjusts the border around, you know, I can adjust how much border of the pattern tissue that I want. And I would like it right about there. So it's got about 1/4 of an inch all the way around. And then we're just gonna rip. This stuff is very easy to tear. It's wonderful. And then it looks like I could bring this over a little bit. I don't want to block the holes. So I'm bringing that over just a bit, but I do want it to cover, I want it to cover this image that was already on there. So, and I'm going to turn this over because of the way the folds go, it'll lay a little bit nicer if I turn it over. So yeah, I have some extra, I kind of tore a big piece and now I'm just tearing it down. So I have some extra paper along this edge and I'll just tear it very quickly. So I do apologize, this video is kind of choppy because of all the parts of how I made the binder, and I really just wanted to do it all in one video, not make it a long drawn out process video, but it's a short process video of probably a week's worth of work. So just bear that in mind as we go through, but I did want to have it so that if anyone wants to watch it, then I've got the footage and I'm explaining each step as I go. Okay, so what I've been doing is getting this, goodness, I'm having trouble grabbing it, is kind of laying this right exactly how I want it. And then I'm taking just your basic Elmer's Craft Bond glue stick. And I'm going to glue half of it down at a time. And I'm just noting where the paper falls so I can make sure that I glue within the parameters of where the paper is going to land. And then I'm just taking an old card, like a gift card or reward card kind of thing. This is from the Pita Pit, which I think I've only ever twice been to the Pita Pit in my lifetime. So it's still there. I should go more often. It's got good food, but it's just not in a place where I usually go. Okay, so this has a little bubble. Since it's laying underneath the other page, I'm not too worried about it. And then we're going to come to this side and finish gluing. But the tissue paper is just nice and thin, and it lays very nicely on the page. Now, this one seems like it's a little more crooked than some of my other ones. I do have decal scissors. I could always whip those out if I need to, but I really just like the uniformity of using this ruler. So, if you are looking, this ruler I bought a number of years ago, and they make them in England, and I had to wait weeks and weeks, and I barely got this one. They changed up the design, and so I've had this thing for probably 5 or 6 years now, so I don't even know, I don't remember the brand. I got it because Deli Girl here on YouTube, she was one of the first people I started watching, and she used hers all the time, and I really liked it. But there is one from We Are Memory Keepers that's a heavier plastic that I know a lot of crafters use. So I can't recommend this one because I don't even know if it's still available, but I would recommend getting something that tears a decal edge some way or another if you're looking for basic tools. So then what I'm doing is I'm just going around and finding any of these that are still popping up and just gluing them back down. Making sure that that tissue paper's laying flat. And then after oops, that was tearing a little bit, but it's okay. I thought this would just give it a little bit of that vintage feel without being too much, without over, you know, being too much visually or whatever for the project. I can't think of the right word I want, but anyway, you know what I mean. So then I'm going to lay this down, and then I'm going to sew around it, but I'm also thinking that I will Mod Podge over the top. Oops, hold on. Thought I would Mod Podge over the top because I'm already feeling some of this paint come off on my fingers, so I don't know why it would be doing that, but it does. And because it has a little bit of that distress ink in there, if it gets wet, the color will move. The brown will come out and the color will move around because that's the nature of those inks. So let me make sure that I am actually covering this image. So hold on a sec while I focus. This one just barely fits over that. Okay. It's a little bit small. Okay, so again, I'm just kind of tacking it down. So the sewing will catch all of the corners, but it will also tie in with the sewing on the pages here. So I thought that would just kind of make everything fit together. So that's where I am right now. I'm going to finish these up, and then everything will be ready to go into the binder, all the pages and the tabs. And then if I have time, I'm wanting to make a little bit of ephemera to go in it. So I had quite a few little images that I copied off in all different sizes. So I thought it might be kind of fun to make some tags or pockets or something that could come in the binder as well. And it used up some more of these little images for whoever the winner is. So that's where we're at right now. And at this point, I am not going to come back and show you the finished binder. I'm going to save that for the giveaway video. So if you want to know how this turned out, I will have the giveaway video linked below and at the end of this video, and probably up here in the cards. I'll link it everywhere. But this is the process for how I made it, and I hope it gave you some inspiration or gave you some ideas. And I'm just really enjoying making this. I'm glad I tried this, and I'm really happy that I picked this theme as well. So. Well, I really thought I was done filming this video, but then I had a happy accident. What happened was I had told you that I was going to seal those tabbed pages, the divider pages, with some Mod Podge. Well, then I started thinking that I like so much how the spray adhesive stuck the paper to the cardboard that perhaps I should just use a spray coating, like a clear acrylic coating. And I knew I had some. So I thought, yeah, that's probably better. It'll be a little bit more durable. And I went looking through my stuff, and I pulled out my can. It says acrylic enamel. I didn't think about the fact that this cap is not clear or white. It's gold. And so I came out to spray my pages, and it turns out this is actually copper paint. But let me show you what happened, the effect that I got, and I'm so pleased with it that I'm glad I had this accident. So here it is. You saw how bright the page was that I showed you in the video. I think it was that pink one was the last one I was doing. Well, the copper just gave it such a nice aged vintage, kind of gave it some of the dull finish, I guess you could say, took out some of the brightness. And so I went ahead and sprayed them on the fronts and the backs with a little bit of that copper, and then I did go and find my clear acrylic spray, and I sealed it off with the clear acrylic spray. And I like so much how these pages turned out that I did the binder too. So I did Mod Podge the binder yesterday to give it a little top coat, but then I thought, well, I like the copper, and I added a little copper to it, and then I went over it with the clear acrylic spray as well. This acrylic is one that I've had in my stash for a while, so I think looks like I got it at Hobby Lobby. I've had it for a long time. It was almost at the end, but happily I had enough to finish off this project. So I just thought I'd throw this in here at the very end of this Mod Podge video and just let you know what happened, because I'm really pleased with it. And I would have not normally thought of using a spray paint in my journal, but I really like how it turned out. This is the end of this video. Until next time, be inspired and do something creative today. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.